next point, Scott?
Okay, my next point is also in minute four. And Marco made the point about, full-time direct sales, to make a full-time living type income. But that's often not the goal. The goal of a lot of people, whether it's direct sales or MLM, it's just to make some side money. It's not to become famously wealthy. And so you have to keep that in perspective, that not everyone's goals is to go diamond, for example. Um, but the difference is, in MLM, you can multiply your effort because of your downline. And he said, I couldn't identify a single MLM that has adequate retail sales, but I have. It's been those insurance guys on his videos. Um, so, he just doesn't know what he's talking about. And I don't think he understands the leverage that you can get from an MLM. When you have people under you, you can make some of your profit from their efforts. That's very much like any other company, non-MLM company. The CEO does not do all the work, even though they make a whole lot of money. They depend on people under them to produce. The big difference between MLM and a big non-MLM company is, like we were talking about earlier. A non-MLM company sells most of their products to people who are not part of the company, whereas an MLM, most of the products are consumed by the distributors. That's the big difference.
Yeah, I think the business about the CEO, I think you need to have a look at what percentage of revenue the CEOs are collecting. It's a very, very, very small percentage. It's just that because corporations these days are so big, that's why they're making obscene amounts of money. That's why CEOs are so overpaid, is because even though they're only getting a fraction of 1% of revenue, it's still an outrageous amount of money. Whereas the Amway Corporation, they're just giving far too much of the money to the top 1%. And I feel like most people would agree with that, that the money that's going to the top 1% is just too much. If you were to explain to somebody off the street who didn't have an opinion, this is how much money they're getting per sale, most people would agree with me and Marco that it's just outrageous.
Well, that sort of payment is shown in every marketing plan, so people can see how much the people at the top make versus the people just starting out. And a lot of people join, even though those are the numbers that are presented. What's not presented, of course, is the tool scale, and that's what makes the whole thing completely different than what's being described. So, again, that's why that's a RICO, or at least a business fraud situation. Um, and he also makes the point that
I don't think it
if
is explained like that, though. When they do a presentation and they say, get three, this is what they say: get three, you're free. You've only got to find three people and you're going to be free, financially free for the rest of your life. They're not saying, when you join tomorrow and you sell this thing of toothpaste, you're going to get 3%. They don't say that. And
they do say that,
they don't say
there's
that.
a chart there's a chart that's presented, and you go through the process. At least that's what I've been exposed to. There might be some other people doing it different ways. I'm not arguing that. I'm telling you, my experience is you showed it from the very beginning, and then you progress all the way up through at least direct and even above direct, or platinum, I should say. And that is shown to people, and it's very common. I'm not saying there aren't exceptions. Uh, um, that's very common.
From what I've seen, it's about find three, you're free. That's a direct quote. Find three, you're free. You've just got to find three people who find three people, and then you're going to be a multi-millionaire. They don't talk to you about, when you sell a product, this is how much you're going to get, because they know if they said that sell this product, get 3%, nobody in their right mind would do that, because 3% for those products is an outrageously low amount of commission. As I said before, you can get a higher commission selling Ferraris or houses that are worth millions of dollars. Why would you sell a thing of toothpaste for 3% when you can sell a house for 3%? Doesn't make any sense. It's madness.
Well, it's a lot harder to sell a house than a tube of toothpaste.
I would disagree. I think it's a lot easier to sell a house. For a real estate agent or a realtor to sell a house, it's a hell of a lot easier to sell a house or a Ferrari than it is to sell that toothpaste. That, Scott, you could not sell that toothpaste. It is impossible to sell that toothpaste. You could do what my dad did. You could sit in a taxi day after day after day after day. Well, he didn't even attempt to sell anything ever. But if you could go from door to door to door to door to door to door all day long, every day for weeks on end, you would not be able to sell that toothpaste. It is impossible to sell. It's too overpriced.
I'm not arguing the fact that it's overpriced and it's difficult to sell. I'm just saying
it was
that
easier to sell that.
I'm just saying it's a lot harder to sell a Ferrari or a house than it is a tube of toothpaste.
I disagree. It's easier to sell a Ferrari than to sell that toothpaste. Much. You get the top Ferrari salesman in the world.
Well, almost everyone, I should say, brushes their teeth, right? Yep. Very few people buy a Ferrari. Very few people buy a house in a given year.
Buy Amway toothpaste who aren't in Amway. Very few people buy Amway toothpaste who don't.
So now it's in the same. Now it's in the same category as a house or a Ferrari. So now it's overpriced. I'm not arguing that it's not overpriced. I'm just saying, trying to say it's easier to sell a Ferrari or a house than it is a tube of toothpaste. It's just a inconsistent comparison. They're apples and oranges.
I'm gonna stand by my statement. I'm gonna say my statement one last time, and then hopefully we can move on to the next topic. I think it's easier to sell a Ferrari than the Amway toothpaste. I think it's easier to sell a house than the Amway toothpaste. That's my position on that. You can continue with that point, or we can move to the next error that you feel Marco made.
Yeah, he also made kind of in that same comment, saying I couldn't identify a single MLM that has adequate retail sales. And let's put aside the insurance companies that I brought up earlier. If you take the insurance companies out, I would agree with him. Mm-hmm. But that's not the same as having retail sales as the criteria for a legitimate MLM. So he's stopping halfway through his logic, just like most anti-MLMers, by the way. Yeah. He doesn't continue the logic to have a criteria that defines what a legitimate MLM is and what's an illegal pyramid. He just says that I can't identify one. Well, that's not the point, because I agree that I can't identify one outside of the insurance companies.
Okay, you need to send me the data on the insurance companies. I'm really keen. Can you email me the data on the insurance
that if they don't have the retail sales, they should be shut or forced to go into direct sales. You can't just say you can't find one and therefore they're all bad.
Okay, I see your point. Can you send me an email with the data from an insurance company, and I can have a look at that, and then I can make a video about that?
I don't have data from an insurance company. I have the videos that Marco did interviewing the other people from the insurance companies. And I don't know if they're lying or telling us.
So the only evidence you've got of an MLM company that's done right, or that has not a 99% failure rate, is the word of one of the people who was a distributor for that company. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't focus on the 99%. I focus on retail sales. That's what I focus on. What the failure rate is, to me, is not as important as do you have free market demand for your products. That's the important point.
All right. I think you've made your point there. I disagree. I think that I'm almost positive there's not an MLM company that's got more than a 1% success rate. So they've all got 99% plus failure rates, and I think that's very important. And I think that to say that your evidence is distributor saying that they disputing, you're saying basically that your evidence is the hearsay of a distributor. That's not evidence. But I'm happy to go to the next topic, or we can.
Well, it's not evidence, and it's not evidence to say that every single MLM has a 99% failure rate.
Yes, it is, because
all it is hearsay.
If you type MLM into Wikipedia, the Wikipedia page clearly states, they say 99.6% failure rate over the study of the MLM industry. There's court transcripts. The Amway court transcript in the UK showed a 99.7% loss rate. The Herbalife ones are the same. There is actual evidence of 99% plus failure rates. Very well documented. I think that's very, very, very good evidence. And it's you can't dispute that.
Well, those are two specific companies, and
No,
neither one
sorry,
of them is an insurance company.
that's two, Amway and Herbalife. But on the Wikipedia, if you type in multi-level marketing Wikipedia or MLM Wikipedia, that page is citing 99.6% failure rate, and that was a comprehensive study. So
And what's their source? Just because it's on Wikipedia doesn't make it true. What's their source?
they go through. Well, I urge you to look at that, Scott. But there's been multiple studies, and they all say 99. Harvard's done them as well. 99. It's always 99.67 or 8% every single time. Um, but yeah, I'm happy to move to the next point if you are.
Yeah. Um,
Oh, sorry, I'll just
so
so I'll just stop
this
recording.
is also